Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Hello. To the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. It is going good. I'm very tired. Common theme. If you're not new here, but if you are new here, welcome. If you're not new here, if you're coming back, I don't know how you'd say that. Is that we're tired? Well, I imagine you are as well, Rob. I'm speaking for myself at the moment. Last night was a 5 a.m. finish for us here in the UK. But hey, we don't want to spend every podcast talking about that. So we'll swiftly move on. But, you know, it's important to set the scene and explain that we're probably quite tired. But there's a lot to talk about. And although, yes, it was quite a long show, I think generally speaking, we haven't really said anything to each other since it. From my point of view, it was a very good show. There's a few things I was a bit concerned about. A few things, mainly the length that I would kind of... but other than that, it wasn't terrible. I've seen longer and I've seen worse. But yeah, it was a very, very good show. What we'll do here, as you can see, is just me and Rob this time. We're just gonna shoot the breeze, as they say, and go back and forth and talk about, well, all the matches in a bit of detail and all the big events that happened in between them as well. Because, you know, I don't know if you realise, but there's a few things going on with AEW at the moment that are quite interesting. First of all, did you watch the buy-in, Rob?
Honestly, I really didn't. However, I did see like a meme. What do you call it? A GIF or a GIF? I want to get that out of the way because
I call it a GIF.
Okay.
Because, you know, the creator said it's a GIF, so I'm going by the creator.
All right. So the GIF, but is
You could have done a meme. Some people used to call them memes. or meme. Some people say it like meme, but anyway, we're going with GIF and meme, I think.
Yeah. All right. Cool. But yeah, the GIF. It was when they all kind of grabbed each other in like a lock, and I mean, I appreciate it, but that could have been a fantastic opening match without that silly moment. And I just don't like when they're just trying to establish new like groups and stuff, and then they put in a comedy effect. I get it's great, you know, it's funny to see in that, but it could have done without it, and that match still would have been quite solid. Well, but that was my only moan about it.
That's the thing with a lot of this stuff. There is that risk of going into what could be considered too indie for some fans, and especially with the comedy stuff. And I think with the people that you had in this match, this is the most likely time you're going to get that, you know, especially with you know, freshly squeezed being around himself. But saying that, I was very impressed with. I mean, I know they are anyway. But it's just at moments like this that you realize just how over so many of these people are. Orange Cassidy, not someone you would have expected to get over, I think, for the most part. And there are still some people that don't understand it, and I get that. But generally speaking, you know, best friends, Jurassic Express, obviously talking about the baby faces here. It's just a feel-good thing. I feel like it was a great way to start the show. We'll get on with a pre-show. It did feel like your perfect kind of pre-show match in the sense that it felt exciting, but not, oh, this has been shoved on the pre-show. You know, so that it was a real contrast to other pre-shows that we might get.
Yeah, I mean that other than the what do you call it, the comedy moment, I enjoyed it for what it was. You know, it wasn't a bad match. It wasn't we'll stick these on so they got airtime. Like, they were more than happy. Sometimes a lot of the wrestlers in AEW, they're on the pre-show. I'm more than happy because they get their stuff done and they can sit back and actually enjoy the rest of the show. For them, it's not a negative thing. And, you know, I do like that aspect with the way AEW do it, is like it's not the same people all the time.
Yeah, and I think they've bred in a good culture of that because of things like Dark, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of, yeah, like you say, people, and we'll get to this in a bit, but like John Moxley just having a random thrown together match, it seems, you know. So it kind of like it shows the depth of their roster, and it doesn't feel like people are buried, you know, when they're on the pre-show. It still feels like, again, they're massively over. Like everybody enjoyed it. But yeah, not much to say about this match. It was good. The baby faces were really over. I did really enjoy. There was a shooting star press off of someone's back onto their back as well, and which one a private party did. I can't remember which one, but they also did the I think it's swanton into a cutter and stuff like that. But yeah, I think generally speaking, it was a really enjoyable match. But we've got a lot to talk about here, so I think we'll just jump straight into the main show, really. Fireworks going off. Here we go. All Out. And I feel like AEW went out all out from this point on. It was mad. So we started off, obviously, speaking of mad, we've got the Mad King himself, Eddie Kingston versus Miro. Again, solid opener. I thought it was a good match. Miro is in incredible shape. And they did a really good job of just explaining the story that I think they needed to, where Miro is a beast and Eddie Kingston doesn't ever want to give up, and he's ridiculously tough. But by contrast as well, it showed how tough Miro was, you know, with that storyline going into it of you've got a weak neck. And well, not you've got a weak neck. He didn't say it like that, but you know, he was basically saying, "I'm going to target your neck," and it showed that when the bruise is coming up on the top half of Miro's chest from the chops. But yeah, I mean, a really good match. I think it was a very, very clever way to end it as well, because obviously you keep the heel looking strong, you keep the champion looking strong, you keep the undefeated man looking strong. You don't bury Eddie Kingston. You make him look like, oh, he could have done that, you know, because I think it's a very clever way to do it, because I was thinking, why have they took the turnbuckle pad off? Like, what are they doing? And then when the ref gets distracted but starts putting it back on, I thought, because then Kingston got the upper hand, went for the pinfall. And I was like, oh, I thought Kingston would have cheated there, low blow.
Yeah.
So I was like, so what was the point in the pads? And then it became apparent as soon as he starts counting, I was like, oh, well, this is genius. Like, I don't know if we've seen that before. I know we've seen refs have to put on pads before and stuff like that. But the way they did it, I thought was really impressive, because it started out as feeling as, oh, I know what's going to happen here. This is the cliche spot. And then ended up being, no, it's not. And that evolved into, not only did he miss the 1, 2, 3, but then also, you know, Miro hits in the low blow while the ref's not looking. I thought it was really well executed.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. I mean, the match, I wouldn't say it was hit and miss. It was very like full on, like they got two big guys just going head to head. It was quite a brutal match, like being slammed. There was a lot of, I don't know. It was just it was very chaotic, even though it wasn't out of the ring too much and things like that, you know. But the finish was so well done, because when the pad come off, I actually thought, oh, the pad's come off. Like I wasn't watching it as, oh, it's a moment spot.
Yeah.
And then obviously the ref was putting the pad on, and then the pin happened, and then I was like, oh, now the spot happened. I thought, oh, that's it.
Like he was genuinely putting the pad back on, because I was the same. I was like, is this a spot or is it an accident? Like they did it very well.
Yeah, but the finish, and I think what's so good about the finish is, you're right, it didn't make Kingston look weak, and it made Miro be in a situation of, out of desperation, I need to do something to win. I can't beat him how I normally would beat people. So it was literally, all right, I will do anything now to win. So it showed how much of a heel he is and how hard it is to beat Kingston. So it worked with both guys. So I enjoyed it.
Exactly that. Yeah, like I say, it keeps the mega heel looking strong, and the babyface Kingston looking sympathetic, but also, yeah, what a tough man. Look how hard it is to beat this guy. So yeah, very, very well done. Moving on, we move into a match that I was surprised was this early, just because it featured John Moxley, as we mentioned earlier. So Satoshi Kojima coming in, obviously, from New Japan, blowing wide that forbidden door, which will get blown wider in a moment. And yeah, it was for me quite a standard match. It was good to see the respect that Moxley gave, and I think his promos lately have been very, very impressive as well. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Especially, yeah, like Moxley bowing and then punching back on like the exchanges and stuff. Yeah, and then I think, well, we've got to go. Well, that was more with Suzuki, actually. I was going to say we're going to have to move straight into Suzuki, really, because that is the key thing here. Minoru Suzuki showing up, the fans singing along to that song. And this is why it's really good, because I know a lot of people are going to argue, and I think the same thing would have been said back in the day when certain WCW talent showed up in WWE, right? Of, nah, they're not really known, you know, that kind of Vince McMahon attitude of, if you ain't done it here, well, you know. And yeah, there is something to be said for that, but this is why you debut someone like this on this kind of stage, because it was like their fans, like I remember watching, for example, when the Radicals showed up in WWE, right? Now I knew of those guys, but not very well. I didn't watch WCW massively. I had seen bits of them as a kid. Each of those guys, you know, seen their toys in Woolworths, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like I wasn't massively aware of each of those guys, but the way the fans reacted to them in the front row, the way the commentary sold it, straight away, I knew those guys were a big deal. And I think that's exactly what's happened here. You might not be familiar with New Japan, but when you see, thankfully, the way that crowd carried it and singing the song and stuff like that, the way Moxley reacts, and if you watch it as an outsider, let's say you're a 14-year-old kid and you've only ever known WWE and you've started to watch it because your favorite wrestlers are showing up there, you watch that, and again, like I would have been when I was young, seeing the Radical show up, I think you see the way Moxley reacts and you go, yeah, this guy, like instantly you want to be part of that. So you're like, yeah, Minoru Suzuki, he's amazing. You know what I mean? Like quickly you step up to speed with that. So, and I think AEW do, you know, I know some people think they might not tread that very well, but I think they do personally, because they bring people out on shows where they can get a quick reaction, you know? So, and in certain towns like Chicago and AEW fans were going to know who Minoru Suzuki was. So I think it was a very good way of bringing them in. And again, the way they did it down to Moxley, you know, just showing that respect, but then just being like, let's go, you know, and it was clever as well. Again, and talk about another way you don't hurt someone. The commentators cleverly pointing out, yeah, Moxley can hold his own, but you got to remember, he's just had a match. So yeah, that's why it makes, because I was like, okay, where does this end? Do they just stare down? Do they back and forth? Does someone break him up? Like, or like, how is someone going to get knocked to the ground? Like, someone needs to be left laying, and it couldn't have been Suzuki, and it felt risky to be Moxley because of who he is. But they did it well in the sense that, yeah, you could go, well, yeah, Moxley's tied.
Yeah, I think the fact that they done it later, like they had their punches back and forward and like they traded blows and stuff. Then it kind of at the end with Suzuki, then the finish happened with a pole driver, and I was like, great, brilliant. Like no more needs to be said.
Up until then, didn't they? Yeah.
I was like, no more needs to be said. And again, the match previous that Moxley just had with Kojima was great, and it was hard hitting. So he'd already gone through one war, and now he's about to go through another one straight away. His face told the whole story of like he shouldn't be here. Do you know what I mean? Like again, that forbidden door, and I just love how they're using as a way to really push other stuff. And I like the fact that they're using Moxley for this stuff, and like not Jericho or something like that, because Mox is able to do his thing where he doesn't need to be in a title picture.
Yeah.
And fans love him. Like coming out in the GCW top, which is great.
Yeah, that was a cool touch. Obviously, just won the title back, or not, just won the title from Cardona. And we were talking about this last night before we watched the show. Obviously, the stuff Cardona's been doing is amazing. Being the pro sports entertainment guy, I think it's been hilarious. So having Moxley come in and be that face, because like you say, I think it's genuine with Moxley. Although Jericho has done very well coming away from that main level as well, because doing this great work for MJF, I think it's been like you say, it's refreshing to see it as Moxley, because he doesn't lose steam. He does still feel important, and he brings people again. It gives that validity to those New Japan stars coming in, who you could argue in Japan they don't need that validation.
No,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? But over here, you need Moxley to kind of be like, oh my goodness, because everybody loves Moxley, you know. So I think you're absolutely right, man. Using Moxley, I was just shocked it was this early on in the show. I was like, wow, Moxley's having. But it makes sense. Like, he's literally, like, again, on Dynamite, I think it was, or Rampage 1, obviously they've got the 2 shows now, where he did the promo backstage being like, I sent the FedEx out and all this stuff. Like, just him just straight up being like, I just want to fight, man. Like, New Japan, like, I think he's very believable. His promos are really good, and he's doing some amazing work at the moment. And again, some people, outsiders who don't watch the program, might say, oh, why is he not in the title picture? But they can't all be in it, and I think he's one that, like you said, he really isn't damaged by not being in it. I think he's there to legitimize talent coming in.
Yeah, he's a prime example of someone that has had the title, stepped away for the next people, like the next other talent to take it, like Omega. I'm not saying that Omega's a younger talent and he hasn't earned it. Obviously, he has. But Mox had it, lost it to Omega. Now Mox is doing this other stuff and bringing in all these like Japanese guys, because he's had experience with them. Not that Kenny Omega has, but do you need to see Omega versus them, or do you want to see Mox versus these guys? Because at the moment, stuff of he does the death matches and he does the hard hitting stuff, and he's done it with Omega. So, and if Omega right now is a champion, that must show how strong these matches are and how good Mox is. So bringing all this new talent in from Japan that the normal people wouldn't know unless they watch like New Japan.
Yeah,
you're thinking, damn, like they're going against Mox first. That's suicide. You know, they're crazy. So but I loved it, and I was shocked that it was early. But I think with the matches next to come, I think where else would you have put this on the card?
Yeah, true. It was a stacked card, man. And you're right. I think even about saying Omega, like if you have Omega as that guy, because he's got history with a lot of these guys, it takes away from the Omega story we're getting in the main event. So this is a perfect way, and we say this so often of like, you can do both, like such and such, not to compare to other companies and other storylines too much, but so I won't name names, but like there's so many times where you go, I'm so glad this person's back, but I wish they weren't the champion. I wish we had them as an attraction and the title over here. And I think this is a great example of that. You know, Omega can carry on doing this great storyline that he's doing, and we're still yet to get around to the Hangman Page stuff. All these people that have just showed up tonight, well, last night as well. And that could go in so many directions. And Punk, obviously. So, yeah, you don't need Moxley to get in that picture as well.
Yeah.
I think, keeping him where he is, I think is very good. And, man, all round, I think it was a very good way they pulled this off. Anything else you want to mention on that match before we move into the women's title?
No, I enjoyed it. It was great.
Okay, so that being said, let's move into the women's title. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD versus Chris Statlander. Okay, now for this one, first note, DMD so over, which is crazy. Like, she's so popular, and rightly so. I enjoyed this match as well. I think both of these women are at the forefront. I mean, them two, Thunder Rosa, obviously we'll get to in a bit. They're really starting to build a good division here. I know you've been worried, as conversations we've had off air in the past about Britt Baker, I guess, being the only representative, like the main focus, maybe for a bit too long. And for that, I kind of thought she was going to lose. So I was shocked by that, because at some point, and it'd be kind of like Moxley, take her away from it. You built her now, take her away from that storyline. Let's do something else with her and give someone else the title. So I do feel like maybe it was a miss here. But as far as the match goes, it was a very good match, and the way it ended with the Pittsburgh Sunrise, which was amazing. The kick out, the vicious stomp, and then the lockjaw, I thought was a very good way to end the match as well.
Yeah, the match was very sorry. I thought it was so I had no idea what was going to happen. And I think that when we spoke about it off air and through messages and stuff, and we always said that other than Britt Baker, and you had the likes of Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, a couple of others, there's not really been someone that's really been, okay, the women's division is this group of people, and this is the person at the top of the mountain of it at the moment. For so long, I don't really think they had someone ready for that position. And Britt Baker has filled that position so well. And even though I wanted her to lose so Statlander could win, I really wanted Baker to win. I have no idea why. Like,
I didn't want both. But no,
I
think you're right as far as that level. I think she's been clearly the top one, right?
Yeah.
I think it's about lifting the rest of the division up to her level. It depends how you want to say that. But in order to not pass the torch, but yeah, give it to someone else so she can step into a background kind of feud that doesn't get lost. Because if she did lose it, I thought if she lost it and then went into a feud with, let's say, like we've got Ruby Soho showing up now, or Thunder Rosa has mentioned as well, and there's so many other people which we'll get into that match in a minute. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's about bringing the rest of the division up so that there's someone top of the mountain, but you can clearly see who else is on that mountain. Where I feel like the first year, I couldn't tell you who was on that mountain, mate.
I mean, because it was, if I remember, it was Nyla Rose,
Rio,
and it was really weird because Rio and Nyla were having the feud, but Rio's so small that I found it really hard to believe that she could be a champion right now.
Right. Yeah.
But now Britt Baker's a champion. Do you know what? I actually believe she's a champion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it seems more legit for some reason. And her against Statlander it was so good. The finish was great. I like the fact that she had to use the stomp twice, one outside the ring and then inside the ring.
Yeah.
You know, to really make a mark on her and stuff like that. So yeah, again, it was crazy. But what really stole it for me was Orange Cassidy. It kind of went into this weird phase and just screamed at Statlander. I loved it because he's so out of character.
Yeah. We'll quickly get to the comment here. Dan's joining us. Thanks, Dan. Shout out first to AEW Women's Champ by the end of 2022. Heard it here first. Well, you're being a bit cheeky there, Dan, because we spoke about this the other day. So we did speak about this. What was it on our SummerSlam? Something? I don't know what it was, but one of those. We were talking a little while ago, actually, weren't we, about the possibility of Charlotte. You know, it doesn't seem so strange now that Charlotte and like anyone, it feels like at some stage, up to a certain point, it always feels like Reigns ain't going, Cena ain't going. Charlotte used to feel like that me for the women's division, but who knows now? Like it might not be that crazy. Obviously not right now because she is quite busy. But yeah, by the end of 2022, seriously, who knows? If we would have said even 3-4 years ago about all the people that were on last night's show, I think a lot of people would find it very hard to actually believe. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for me as well for the women's title there. And now I think we are moving on to, in my opinion, match of the night. I mean, the Young Bucks versus the Usos Brothers, AEW World Tag Team Championship Steel Cage match. Now, my first note is a negative one. No. On the match, on the entrance, great Lucha Bros entrance. Really enjoyed that. Oh. Nick Hogan, there you go. I've already jumped ahead. Nick Jackson's Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan, I should say, moustache was absolutely hilarious. And then one of my first notes, the negative one, is pin sucks. I think you might know from my previous podcasts, I'm not a fan of pin in a cage. I love them to be escape only. So that frustrated me when they said that. But I was quickly distracted by just how amazing the match was. And also noticing how far away the cage actually is as well from the ropes. That was a bit, I didn't know how that was going to go down, but I think it kind of worked for obviously some of the spots they did as well. What did you think of this match? And I'll jump back in a moment. But
as a fellow mask wearer, when the mask almost rips, geez, mate, that match was just, it was one of those where I just didn't know where to look because so much was happening. I'll go into more detail, but I have a really negative note, and it was so annoying they had just announced that the win was by a pinfall or submission, So why did the Young Bucks try and climb out of the cage right at the beginning?
Yeah. I guess cowardly heel.
I guess.
Yeah, but
that was that, and I had to do a count because these do irritate me, but I don't need 20 kicks in a match. Like, just give me a couple.
Yeah. I think again,
20.
Like we mentioned earlier, was that an official count, by the way, 20, or we estimated?
That was my count. I may have missed a couple. It was around 20.
I believe you, man. I believe you. Yeah, again, this touches on what we said earlier about the buy-in of like the dangers of being too indie-rific. But the fact is, that is their style. And, one of my notes in this as well was just like, as always, so many great spots. I think if you just allow yourself to get past that, and I think for me, I am at a stage because I've watched a lot of their matches now, like over the years, like, and a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of AEW, but, my fair share of AEW. I haven't watched it every week since it started, but, I dip in and out. I think you're the same. And obviously that's ramping up at the moment. But yeah, I just feel like because of that, I'm a bit used to it, and they have kind of toned it down a little bit, and you can expect it on a big show like this and big high stakes, and like it's got to be match of the year stuff. So you're going to bring out all your super kicks and all your kick outs and all your flips and flams, and that's not even a word, but you're going to do all that stuff. And just as a spectacle, because, I'm very much of the belief of there are different types of wrestling, and that's okay. But at the same time, I don't want to be a hypocrite, because there are certain things that I am like, oh, that's too much. And I do think at times they go a little bit too far with that stuff. But I can't pretend I wasn't entertained. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is. Yeah. But yes, but if you go into that kind of like super kicks, yes, they're not as protected, but they always feel impactful. But if there's not a pin, it's tough, because especially then you have another guy on, like later in the show, might do one of them, and the guy's down for way longer. Where I had a problem with it was the circle they did.
That was about 4 or 5 other things.
Yeah, and I usually like those spots, like the kind of back and forth and like it is suspending your disbelief. It's the same as when there's like 15 people on the top rope and they do a massive superplex. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that kind of same sort of thing. So I can forgive it to a certain extent, because I like that bit when it was chops, because it was like, that's realistic. Like, oh, that hit me. Out of respect, you know what? I ain't falling. Boom, you're next. Oh, I see where this is going. You're next. Like, that is, I can kind of take that. It's like when people stop in a match and they go up to each other and they start slugging blows. They go, well, we know we could chain wrestle, but we are both acknowledging, cool, let's take a step back. You hit me, I'll hit you. Like, that feels kind of realistic. So I can kind of suspend my disbelief in that, but they're going to go, boom. Like, they all are aware. It's when it's like, it happened to be that way that I go, like, it happened to be. So, and don't get me wrong, all of the super kicks connected really well. They all reacted. Like, if you're going to do, because I love a hit where someone doesn't fall, but you think they're going to fall. I think they're so, like, interesting if they're done in the right way. But they are rare. Like, you should... 9 times out of 10, you should fall from a super kick. So the fact that 4 people didn't fall from a super kick is where I went, eh. And again, their selling was great. I think Hogan himself fell onto the ropes. Another one of them, like, stumbled in one way. Another one kind of stumbles in another way. Like, all of them were executed very, very well. But that suspension of disbelief was lost in the fact that it's hardly something you stay on your feet for, yet 4 of them stayed on their feet for it. So that's where I was kind of lost. But again, was it entertaining? Yes, it bloody was. So
I mean,
I can't say too much.
Yeah, I think, again, that was my criticism, was there was a lot of super kicks, but even though I was moaning there was too many, I was like, oh, I need to see what happens. And then when they done the cutter, like the diamond cutter, one hit, so then one hit on another one, and then they hit on another one, and it was just, they were just trying to outdo each other with the same move. Who could do the move better and make more of an impact? And it was so good, even with the as someone's mentioned, one of the comments, the bag.
That's a great point. The highest pressure move in the night, tossing the bag in cage. Imagine that botch. Perfect. The way it went over was so impressive. You know the deal. Thanks for commenting, and thank you for joining us. You really know the deal because you're here with us on RN Pro Wrestling. But yeah, and obviously might as well talk about it now, but the spot that led to, and they've done this before. They did it, I think, in PWG, and it was actually Candice LeRae that got the super kick with it on before.
Yeah.
I think she jumped in front of Jerry Ryan. And yeah, so they've done it before, but this is the kind of thing. And I used to appreciate when RVD did this. RVD used to do that amazing pile driver spike reaction, which he had done, and DDT reaction that he'd done loads in ECW. But he knew by the time he got to WWE, there's an audience that haven't seen this. Let's rehash it. Let's do it again. And it still felt fresh. And I felt like doing that here, for those in the know, could go, and I think Excalibur mentioned it even, you could go, oh, they've done this before. But also for those new, it was like, what? They've done it. What are they going to do? You know what I mean? So, man. Like him, like Nick licking the boot, like it's just so perfectly shot. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was very, very clever.
Yeah, it was great. And, you know, again, it was one of those things where if you hadn't seen it before, you're like, oh, they're using thumbtacks, but not in the generic way of just pouring them on the floor and being handed into them.
And the fact that at the moment, they're so into their Jordans as well. Like.
Yeah. It fits perfect. The super kick with them. I love that Penta was in front of Phoenix for that to take the kick as well.
Oh,
and then Phoenix still got the kick. I love the fact that he hit one and then hit the other later. You know, it was just and do you know what? There was a proper beautiful visual when the Lucha Brothers won the match. I don't know if Penta was doing it on purpose because he kept feeling on his head, I think, to see where but when the camera panned and it was in this really weird view of just Penta and Phoenix in the ring, there was blood on the belt. And I was like, do you know what? Literally, blood, sweat, and tears were made for that belt.
Yeah.
And it just really made the impact even more. Like, they went to war. And they
100%.
Incredible. Like, everything.
It's like you said, like, one of them has a mask ripped open, and one of them has it dodgily off their face because they're trying to reach where a cut is. Like, it just seemed insanely brutal, and it was. But those visuals, as much as some of them are probably mistakes, you know, like obviously that cut looked quite serious, and the mask probably wasn't planned to be ripped. And it is unfortunate in some sense because they do want to keep, because you want to keep that for the storyline, because obviously they did the typical heel, let me pull it off him. So like, you don't actually, like, it's like when Ray accidentally has had his mask pulled off before, you know, like, it's like, oh, this ain't a gimmicky thing, we need to quickly get it back on. So you feel for the guy, but at the same time, it really did kind of put across how, like you say, how brutal this match actually was. Some of the other spots I think probably worth mentioning, you had the Avalanche Canadian Destroyer, and obviously jumping off the top of the cage. Who was it that jumped off the top?
It was Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah. So jumping off the top of because they toyed that they were going to do their finisher up front, and I was like, no, don't do that. You'll kill him.
When he went up to the top and they went to do the finisher, I was thinking, and I don't know who's going to get it worse. One of the or the fact that he's going to be landing feet first. I was like, you're going to kill me.
Because he's going to bounce there. Like, oh my goodness. And then when they switched it up and didn't do that, they just did a jump, I think. Yeah, they did, because obviously you had the Bucks on either side. Yeah. And
Penta in the middle.
Penta in the middle. And like kind of just accepting it's going to happen sort of thing, you know? Like, I did still feel like, I wish they didn't flirt with the idea of doing the other move, you know? But at the same time, when they were flirting with it, I was like, oh, don't do it. Don't do it. It's going to be horrible. Like, but I was scared for him, but hey, I'm sure they could have pulled it off some way. And yeah, I mean, we get kind of towards the end of the match there, and I think right decision, man. I think the Lucha Brothers have been amazing. They're one of those people, again, like two of those people that have been in that main event, especially at the early days, and they've come away from it. And because of that exposure they got, and again, like with the women earlier, you know, like we see a lot of the women who have been with other people, and then they've kind of moved into something else, and now they are known characters. And I think for the Lucha Brothers, obviously they came in quite big, hot on the heels of things around like what they've done in Mexico and Impact and stuff like that. But like them as a tag team, like, man, they are so over at the moment. And it was the absolute right time to take the titles off the Bucks, I think, as well, and put it on a worthy kind of team. Who, and again, like you said earlier, like blood, sweat, and tears going into this match. It was amazing. So for me, good decisions all round.
Yeah, I also love the fact that when they finally got to for the 3-pin, Penta had done his finisher. I always forget the name of it, but Penta got his finisher in. and then Phoenix instantly dived to hold the other one down. So the 3 count.
It's the little things, man. Yeah.
It was so great to see, because normally we're like, oh, we'll just leave it. But the fact that it was at a desperation of like, you've done your finisher, he might not kick out. To be sure, I need to cover it, because that's how they were doing a lot of the false finishes, the body in at the last minute. So again, it was something that had happened a lot during the match. They prevented it from happening at the end to get the victory. It was written so well. Like, the whole thing was produced so well. Like, I think, honestly, match of the night.
Yeah, I mean, some people, I was listening to a podcast, and so, like, with people phoning in that, and people were saying, like, is it the best cage match of this generation and one of the best of all time? I mean, it was very good. I mean,
very good.
There have been some good ones in the past few years. That some of them have been just a bit, so there happened to be a cage, could have been a singles match. But I'd say, I mean, the most recent example we've got is Braun versus Shane, which I do think was good at WrestleMania. And then I think for me, you have to go further back with the ones with like the Hardys and the ones with Kurt Angle doing the moonsault off the top.
Yeah.
Like there were some really good ones in that kind of period of the Attitude Era as well. So off the top of my head, I don't know what I would say is up there with it, but yeah, for me, it might be in that bracket of one of the greatest of this generation, of this past 20, 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to compare it to something that happened way back when, with like snooker jumping off the top and stuff like that. But this, if you gave it like a top 5, if people don't put this cage match in at least their top 5, there's something wrong with them, because dude, this was incredible. Like, it had every
brutal, like a cage match should be.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what I like? The fact that because there was no escape by climbing over the top and it was pinfall submission, everything had to happen in the confines of the cage. Whereas when they got to the top, they could have just climbed out. And I like the fact that you finish in the ring with a pinfall. So I agree with you. Like, getting out is always great, but the fact that they couldn't in this match,
it worked. Yeah.
Oh, it was so because they've done it the right way.
How I'm putting this at one of the best of all time, when it massively goes against what I think a cage match should be as far as escape. I think that that says one, says wonders and a lot for it, really. But yeah, man, great match. Moving into the next one, another match. It was that period of the show where I was just like, and it does start to drag later on, don't get me wrong, but where I was like, oh, now you're going to hit us with this, because I think we all had an inkling of who might be showing up. But as we look at that graphic then, we've touched on it a bit through the show already. There are a lot of people in this where it's like at different, varying levels of, I guess, success and fame and overness, I guess you could say. But there are a lot of people in this, so I think they are becoming more recognizable, and people are standing out as something individual, which is very hard to do. And I think they did struggle with a lot in the early days in the women's division of AEW. But again, like just simple things of having the Bunny from her time with Butcher and the Blade, simple things of having like DMD having her like sidekicks at the moment, who else have we got in there?
I'll tell you what,
Rosa, since she come in from NWA, go on.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, they made a big point about Sky Blue.
Sky Blue, yeah.
And she still doesn't have a contract, right?
I don't think so, yeah, because it was a big deal that they made that she'd even been in it, and she wasn't in it for long either.
No,
but I think again it was played well because it got sympathy for her. Nyla Rose performed well in this as well. Who else have you got? Like Hogan. Who else?
Red Velvet.
Red Velvet, yeah.
Oh man.
And even what was I going to say? Penelope Ford as well. Another one, again, comes in with a storyline between, Kip and Miro, who you would kind of look at mainly because we don't know these people, So when these people start getting in these storylines, and I just think it's really clever that by the time it gets to this point, these people more. And something that me and Dan spoke about, I think, when we did Double or Nothing 2020 on the main Rebellious Noise channel before we split into having us on the Pro Wrestling channel, was this being a bit of a confusing match type, and the suites and stuff like that, the suits even. which I feel like, again, it's just another example of give it time and things will start to become clearer. Because obviously there's comparisons with things like Royal Rumbles and stuff like that. But there used to be a very kind of flat feeling when the suits came up before, where I felt like this time round it was more higher impact and energetic. Like, oh yeah, we know how this works now. You know what I mean? And I think the Joker thing could come to bite them in future. But I think if it turns out, and probably wasn't meant to be this way with Leo Rush coming in when he basically came in but retired. But even if they end up being like, look to someone we ain't going to give you a contract. Kind of like how they did with Nick Gage. Like Nick Gage come in, did one thing. If Nick Gage come in, they're the kind of people, because they can't always be bringing in ex-WWE guys for this spot or hot impact guys they've just took over like they did with Brian Cage, you know? So I do think there is a risk factor with the Joker thing, but at the moment it's working really well. And yeah, perfect time to say Ruby Soho. I mean, wow.
The thing was, everyone was saying it's going to be Ruby, and I'm thinking, is it going to be though? Like, can it be? And I was thinking,
few rumors of Tessa Blanchard, but that weren't coming into for me. It was like, it had to be Ruby.
Yeah, and I was seeing a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to be this person, or it's going to be someone that you at least expect that you don't want to push Thunder Rosa winning and things like that. And I'm thinking, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then she come out, and I was like, oh, holy sugar. I was like, no way. And the reaction from that crowd, man. And they allowed her to soak it in as well, which was great.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's so many layers to this, right? So I tweeted about it last night. At Scott_Rep Noise if you want to follow me, and RN Pro Wrestling on Twitter if you want to follow us as a little gang, and see more of our wrestling content and what we think of it during the shows as well. So I was basically saying on there, like, Ruby Soho, like, she's finally got a chance to show what she could and possibly should have been elsewhere. And I know that could be said for a lot of people that come in from New York, as they say, but I really feel like it was something like majorly missed with the formerly Ruby Riott. I feel like there was a lot of times she could have been tag champ, a lot of times she could have branched into a single kind of career and been the main champ and been more of a name built up within the WWE system. But I think a lot of people feel the same way, and that's why when she come in, I think kind of like the way when Harper was coming into AEW, where people were like, he might not have been world champ, but we all know he can be. You know, and I think Ruby Soho is the same in that she's got a great kind of gimmick, great look. Did you see much of the promo videos that she'd produced or someone had produced for her, but they were being put on her Twitter and stuff?
No, I haven't seen it.
Right, no, so it was basically... It was all hyping it up, basically, and it was loads of little Easter eggs. It was very well done. Obviously, the song "Destination," you know, that's why she had it on her back, and they kind of hinted that in the thing as well in the promo videos, and they started using that song. And obviously, she's named after that Ruby Soho song, and that's again another layer of just like AEW go, you know what? Yes, we're going to get the rights for that. You know, and we're going to make it something, you know, like you think back to Orange Cassidy having the Pixies Where Is My Mind, which works really well for his character as well. You've got Punk coming in with cult personality, like instantly. You don't have to like you did with the Impact Zone a few times, go, who's this? Like, you know, even though like, and even getting up to it later on, like Adam Cole's song and stuff like that. It felt like an Adam Cole song, you know? So, and obviously they did the graphic early, but again, we'll get to jumping ahead. But back on Ruby Soho, I think it was great for her to come in like that. I was a bit worried that, like you said, is this just designed for Thunder Rosa to win? I think she's great. I think if Ruby wasn't there, she should have been the one to win. But because you're bringing in someone new, I think Ruby Soho winning it was the best thing to do. Because sometimes you can bring someone in and they don't have to win because it's like, well, they're there as a name. But Ruby is one of those people who didn't get that title in WWE. So it's not like, oh, she'll get it next time. I think Ruby needed the win.
I think, I agree. But my only criticism with it, though, is the minute she walked out, it was like, she's winning. They would not have made her the Joker for her not to win.
But I don't know. There was still part of me that thought Thunder Rosa could do it. I didn't think Nyla Rose was going to do it. Just because of how over Thunder Rosa is, you know. But yeah, I think they were was a good choice for the final three. And I just felt like Ruby Rose fits, like she fits this division now. Like it fits like the fan base, the reaction, Chicago, like everything just felt right with Ruby Soho. Getting tongue-tied of all the name changes. But everything felt right, and I really enjoyed it. I think it was the right decision. So happy to see.
I mean, the match was great.
Yeah.
The spear from Red Velvet. Jeez. Like, I tell you what, if people want to say specific women need to they can't do men moves because they don't have make an impact, go back and watch that spear. That spear, honestly, I think there's a lot of guys that try to do a spear and it put them to shame. Man, like this, obviously it takes two people to do it, the spear and then the cell.
Yeah.
But because it just come out of nowhere. I was like, whoa, like I had to take a minute to kind of soak that in while everything else was going on.
Yeah. There was a lot of hard hitting bumps. I think one of Ruby Soho's first bump was a slam down to the mat where I was like, oof. And there are great women elsewhere. Don't get us wrong. We have kind of raved about the amazing women's evolution over the past few years on this channel, Rebellious Noise channel, and even on Talking Beans. But what I'm happy to see is that other divisions are catching up, So I'm very pleased because there are some big stars elsewhere. Don't get me wrong, and it's going to take a long time before this feels like a division full of stars like the men's division is. But like I said earlier, a lot of them are growing into and becoming familiar names, and that can only get better really if it's booked the right way. The longer AEW is around, this time next year, this division is going to feel bigger naturally. Man. So
it's really crazy. And do you know what's amazing? That it started with a very weak women's division. And they brought people in. Obviously Kong was in there for a little while with Brandy, and that was a bit of a hit and miss. There wasn't much going on, and if you just said Ruby Soho, Thunder Rosa, Statlander, Britt Baker, dude, that's just 4 names.
And credit to them because they've built them. Because again, 2 years ago, that would have been a who?
Exactly.
A few of them, So they've done very well to build their own stars and take on those people like Sky Blue, where they clearly see something in her. Where they're like, okay, we're gonna, and Thunder Rosa the way they brought in from NWA, So I think they've been wise in bringing that talent from outside to show, and they're doing it now as well with Camille, So being the NWA Women's Champ. So I've really enjoyed it at what they've been doing with the women's division, and I'm looking forward to it getting stronger and stronger. And like we say, the rest of that pile catching up to Britt Baker, so that there is that kind of clear path to becoming champion. And for me, surely if it's not Statlander, it's got to be Thunder Rosa now. So
100%. And what makes it more interesting for me is I want to see Soho versus Thunder Rosa, in a one-on-one match. I don't, and that's just one match that I want to see. So Sky Blue could be a great baby face. Even going her against the Bunny would be great. Because there's so much that you can get from this women's division, and they are starting to get a stacked division all around. But like I said, I was worried about the women's division for a while, and now you look at it and you think, man,
where did that come
stacked?
From?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing happens. The same fragilities show up in Royal Rumble matches in WWE for the women, where some years we've looked at it and gone, oh, okay. You guys stay in the corner, do a little bit of the whole I'm going to throw you over, because like in the first women's Rumble, there was sloppy spots, and they had to fill it in with NXT people. They brought in legends who weren't, as much as they're legends, they weren't of the same caliber of some of the newer talent. Some of them matched up, but some of them didn't. So there's and again, this industry is kind of like forgotten women for so long. It's going to take time for these things to gel, and then when you get a brand new division, it takes time. So showing off again in the Rumble, you can see sometimes fragility, and in these kind of matches, you can see the fragility as well. But I got to say, I thought I'd see a lot more fragile spots last night than I actually did. And all in all, when they all started coming out on every suit, I was like, oh, that's a potential star there. That's a potential star there. God, she can go. So, like, there was always someone in every suit, or two or three, where I was like, oh, cool, they're coming into the match. This will be interesting. Whereas I think before it would have been, how's this going to go? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, very well done. Any other points on the women before we move on?
No, man. No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So we move on to okay. Now I got to turn a little bit negative here. Just because I'm not a big fan of things like pretending you're leaving when you're not, which we recently had with Roman Reigns as well. Now, where it did work was MJF. You know, MJF doing that amazing Y2J countdown, coming out himself. Great. He's a great heel. We all know that. I don't think much more needs to be said about how good MJF is in that sense. Before we get to the match, obviously more entrance stuff. We had the guitar entrance, which went a bit sloppy.
I mean, it fell flat. Let's be honest. Like,
it started really good.
Yeah,
and I get that they want other ways to be like, here's another way we can do the entrance. They've done so many different things, and it is a kind of gimmick in itself. It's been amazing. And I think it should have worked. I don't feel like it was really anyone's fault. He didn't really play it badly. I feel like the fans, maybe because of the way it was mixed, they were singing at one point the wrong part. And I thought, but you all know, because when the song plays for real, you're fine. When the song doesn't play, you're fine. But for some reason, there was this weird crossover point, and you could see it in Jericho's face where he looked like, oh no, where it was like they weren't singing along to the right bit, and I was like, what's going on? And I'm sitting there at home again, maybe with a different mix to what they're hearing live. I'm thinking, come on guys, it's this bit, you know, like the chorus now, and even the chorus didn't get as punchy as I thought it would. I was like, I felt like wrong.
The guitarist at first was playing absolutely fine because he's a guitarist for Fozzy. It's not like they brought in like
he knows the
random dude. He knows what he's doing. You know, he hasn't just come from college. Oh, watch this. Like, he knows what he's doing. And I don't know if he had an earpiece in to. I'm hoping that he had an earpiece to play along with a song, because if he didn't, normally with a band, as you would know, like the drummer keeps you in time. So without the drummer, and if he wasn't playing along to a song, I think he gradually got faster. And it did feel like he got quicker all of a sudden, and he was adding like extra little licks and riffs in. So I don't know if he got too carried away. But it kind of maybe, but I mean, there was a hit and miss on that one. I mean, there's been some bad entrances, and I'm sorry, but this one didn't hit. It didn't land, man.
Because it feels like it makes sense, don't it? You know, but it just, unfortunately, it's one of those things. Timing. It's like a move. You know what I mean? Sometimes you see a risky move, and you think, I could see what they were trying to do, but unfortunately, that person was a tad over this side, and it didn't land properly. You know, like I think it's that same sort of thing. I'm just slightly off, and therefore it become a bit uncomfortable. But the match itself, I guess the biggest thing is really the end. You have Jericho putting his foot on the rope, and it looking like there's a 3 count, and that Jericho has to leave. Again, I'm not a big fan of these kind of stipulation things when, to me, it's massively obvious you're not leaving. But I guess where I kind of set up and went, was where they were like, Aubrey Edwards straight up counted it, and it was like, this is going to stand. And that's how they're going to get out of it, because they're going to do like this is it. Jericho's gone, and pretend he's gone, and then he can come back and be like, look, I've had a look at the footage. No, but they just straight away did it. So I was a bit like, well, why'd you do it then? Why did you do it? Was it for that sinking feeling that the fans go, he has retired, you know? But I don't know, man. I feel like I suddenly went, I'm all right with this stipulation, because I think they're going to play it out now and be like, this is a way where he can go away for a few weeks and then come back. And everyone's like, not going, but you lost the match, mate. It would have been like but I've got a reason to, you know, like, we're going to do an investigation or something like that. But they didn't go with that. They went, to be fair, went straight into it again. Jericho almost taps, and does the walls. Jericho, he tries to do the Lion Tamer one again, just another misstep, didn't work out. Ends up going into the sit down crab, which I hate. Anyway, I prefer the raised walls rather than a sit-down one. And then the Lion Tamer one is a quick special one, you know. But obviously kind of fell through a little bit there. But the Raw from when he pulled MJF away from the ropes was fantastic. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie. They had people on their side. So it weren't like it was all falling flat.
Yeah. I mean, my criticism was we had the MJF moment. Firstly, MJF's entrance was what an ultimate heel entrance. Oh, my days. Great.
Did very well to recreate it as well.
Yeah. But what I liked was I was annoyed about the finish because I thought, you know what, MJF could win this in a way where there is a get out clause.
Exactly, yeah.
But so then Jericho could. I thought like Jericho's gonna. If they're doing stuff like this, Jericho's going on tour with Fozzy, or he's taking a break to do something, record a new album.
Sorry, that's exactly what I thought.
And I was the minute that was announced, I was like, oh, Fozzy's doing another tour then, like because people are around. So I was like, great. Jericho goes away, he comes back, something happens in a circle, comes back again. Bang, it's refreshing. It's all new again. Then when they'd done that finish, I was like, all right, now there's a way for Jericho to come back. And then they instantly called it. I love the fact that the other ref was there. They instantly called it. It's clever how the ref was placed there as well through Jack Hager and Wardlow having their like little scuffle and a ref still being out there.
Yeah.
So I like the way that the ref was strategically placed there. He wasn't just there for no reason.
Yeah.
But the minute they announced that the match is being restarted, it should have been an instant roll up 1, 2, 3, and Jericho scurries away laughing because he got the upper hand from it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there didn't need to be any more in that match. We'd already had the match. You should have just got him up, rolled him up, pulled the tights, and showed, look, just because I've now got a victory over you. And I don't know. I think it had too much happening at the end of the match.
Felt like we got two finishes, didn't it? We had that kind of like, this is you get out of jail card because he's going away, right? And then this, and all right, maybe not roll up like you said, but then, and again, I love that put away from the ropes and all that, but like that feels like that was a
could have happened first bit.
Yeah, that could have happened without, but then again, it was the final kind of thing, so that could have happened without the kind of shenanigan side. So it's like they went with both sides of it, which was a bit confusing. And again, by that point, if you really want us to believe Jericho might go, and you start making us think, oh, this is actually legit and fair play, they're going to bring him back. We know he ain't leaving the company, but we can get behind that because it's annoying when they do bring people back like that. But if you're going to do a storyline, fair enough. And again, if he was going away, it's kind of a clever way to do it. So I started feeling, oh, it's going to be good for him to go away. He'll come back fresh. What we're going to do next. Whereas right now, I'm like, what's Jericho doing next? You know, so it kind of like, not that I don't want to see Jericho, but I started getting behind the idea of, I can't wait for a Jericho return. And now I'm not getting a Jericho return, you know?
Exactly. You know, it was a little confusing. I like the idea that obviously Jericho stayed. We know even if he did lose, he wasn't going anywhere. He's still with the company. But I think if anything, it doesn't belittle MJF, but now it's like, oh, he's got a victory over MJF. So MJF needs to redeem himself again. I don't want to see another Jericho MJF match right now. Like, leave it.
They drug it out as long as they can. I mean, it's been good anyway. And the 5 labors of Jericho and all that, clever ways to do it. But for me, that was about dragging something out. So we don't need to drag it out anymore. So you're right. What does MJF? But he's such a, you know, I try and careful my words because he's that kind of heel. But like, he can just move into another storyline and just be an idiot.
Yeah.
To someone else.
Exactly. I won't say it breaks MJF's character because I don't think it really will. But Jericho going and then them bringing this back, it would have just stretched this out a little bit more of, all right, and then MJF could be cocky if they do the inner circle stuff again, your leader's gone. Like, do you know what I mean? It would have pushed him to do just a little bit more than Jericho returning with. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It storyline wise, I think it would have benefited MJF more with the victory, even though he didn't get the victory. But hey, it was a great match either way. I'm not, I can't complain about anything. It was what more do you need? It was a great. Sometimes you have a filler match after something big, and I don't think any of these matches felt like a filler match. So for him to exactly,
well, we get to one in a bit. That's definitely a filler match.
But, but yeah, man, this was great. Like I really enjoyed it, and the fact that MJF still looks strong, I don't know, I can't complain.
Okay, cool. With that being said, we're going to move right into what basically sold this show on the most part, and that is CM Punk versus Darby Allin. Still feels weird to say, Rob, but CM Punk is back in professional wrestling. If you want to hear more talk about that, check out the Talk of Miz podcast on all good podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. You'll find us there, where we talk about film and TV and wrestling from time to time. We've now moved it into the current state of pro wrestling is how we're branding them now, because we don't want to just talk about events on there, because we do that on here. So if you want to hear me and Tom talk about our love for CM Punk and his return, go check that out. So we won't be going too much into, isn't it great that Punk's here, because we all know that already. I'm sure that'll pop up a little bit.
Hang on. You missed a cheap plug here. Subscribe. Don't just go and check the highlights. Subscribe, man. Go and subscribe.
That's it. Well done, mate. You're doing my work for me. But yeah, CM Punk, Darby Allin, obviously Sting in the background of this graphic. We'll kind of show that again, as he'll come out later as well. And I've got a few points about that. Yeah, so I've kind of touched on this a bit. I hope you've listened to Talking Beans, by the way, Rob.
Come on now.
So so you'll know my thoughts on it. But what are your thoughts on as far as the fact that it's Punk and Allin first of all, before we get talking to how successful the match was or wasn't, depending on your opinion.
So when it was first announced and Punk started mentioning Darby first, I was thinking, really? You want to start with Darby Allin?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, what? There's nothing there. You know, I thought Punk was going to come in and go against like a heel. But I like the fact that he done Darby Allin first, because it shows, all right, I've been out at the ring 7 years. He mentioned a lot of great young talent that he wants to work with. So he's working with young talent. Like, he's not just important to, I'm Punk, I'm going for the title. Like, nothing. He didn't even mention the title. So the fact that it was him versus Darby Allin in this, you know, and I love the fact that Sting done what he said. He's going to fist bump Darby and go to the back and just let them wrestle. Man, it was so good. Like, so good. Just, it was nice to see Punk. I mean, I was a bit skeptical on them tights.
I'll be honest.
Too. But hey, new Punk, right?
True.
I thought I was saying to Tom from Talking Beans, earlier on, I was like, I thought he was going to come back in fight shorts, because he mentioned that on the Art of Wrestling podcast.
Yeah.
They're going to come back with fight shorts and maybe have sponsors, but I think because he'd done the UFC stuff, he kind of had the shorts on.
Yeah.
You know, and it done it. So I was thinking, do we get old like classic Punk with just
big
shorts? Or do we get like WWE Punk with like the trunks and stuff?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I'm glad he come out with the tights, because it's something different. I mean, a lot of people have moaned about it, but you know, I mean, Jericho was wearing trunks in WWE for ages, and people didn't like that at first, and it grew on them. But man, I liked it. It's different. Like,
yeah, it was interesting. Like, I just think for the first time back, it's like, oh, really? That's all it is, you know. Like, they weren't bad, you know. I mean, it still fit with his style. It's the same sort of pattern. Obviously, the Chicago flag he would have had on continues into his boots. He would have had it on his trunks if he had trunks on anyway. So, touching on the whole Darby Allin thing, a really interesting point that they made is that I think 7 years ago, obviously Punk left wrestling, he's saying it's much longer than that, but since he left WWE, and 13 months later, Darby Allin, I think, either started training or his first match, one of those kind of things. I can't remember which one they said. That's crazy. It just makes you realize how much time has passed, and also how, 6 years in the business then it's quite a decent amount of time for Darby Allin, but also shows how much he's got to do, like how exciting it is that he's got to this stage. And again, another great thing for AEW, how they've built these new stars. Like, they have found stars. You can't deny it. Darby Allin is a star, and CM Punk, like, I liked his whole explanation of it, of like, he would have been my favorite wrestler as a 15-year-old, you know, and I think he's got a lot to give. And yeah, the face-face dynamic can kind of make that a bit messy, but I think they did make it work. And it was kind of like your respect match. You know, not every match has got to be like, you cheated on me, or, you know, like, you stole my girlfriend type stuff, or you turned on me at the last pay-per-view, or do you know what I mean? Or you spilled coffee over me. You know, like it doesn't always have
to Jericho and Kane.
Yeah. He's still in my mind. But yeah, like it doesn't have to be that. But yeah, as far as the match goes, obviously you also had Darby Allin's helicopter skit just before it as well. But yeah, Darby Allin just full of dives as he is, and all of them looked amazing. What I really, really liked was the go to sleep signal, and then the coffin drop, and then instantly Punk move. And we'll talk about timing, man. Like the way that was perfectly done. Boom, boom, bang, Punk's up, laughing.
Yeah.
Like so well done. And it played into that kind of like, oh, you want to give me a bit of disrespect, do you? And then Punk, on the other hand, going, oh, just remember I'm the veteran here. You know what I mean? Like it showed into that kind of, yeah, Darby Allin's really good, but he is inexperienced, you know? And I wasn't sure if Punk should win. I kind of thought, yeah, I thought Darby Allin should maybe win because it would make more sense. Like Punk could be like, yeah, because we know Punk, like he could definitely challenge for the title in a month's time. So Punk could be like, because he said, I've got to get boots. I haven't wrestled in ages. You know, like it would have made sense if he was a fighter in real life who came back. It would make sense if he wasn't as good as he was when he left. So I think that would have been good, because otherwise there's a risk of being like, Darby, you're not that good, are you, mate? But again, if they show it's because he's young and there's that other side of it, then yeah, it's not too bad. It could have been. It wasn't like he come in and he buried Darby Allin. The fact is, he had a feud with Darby Allin, and he could have bypassed that. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So Darby didn't need to win, but part of me just felt like maybe it would have been a good idea for him to win. There was a strong-looking GTS in this. Darby Allin is very good at selling, so that was cool to see. But yeah, generally speaking, I'm with you, man. I quite enjoyed this match.
Darby Allin, it nearly gave me a heart attack. Just so you know, like, just firstly, the GTS like signal into the coffin drop and Punk moving, beautiful. Like, what a moment! Do you know what it reminded me of? You know when a lot of wrestlers go to a dive at Samoa Joe and he just steps out of the way.
Does the little step,
It's such an obvious thing of, you're gonna jump on me? No, I'll move. I'm not putting my knees up. I'll just move. Like it was so well timed for that bit. But when Punk whipped Darby into the corner, and Darby went through and hit the post. Dude, the camera angle was done so well. I was like, did he just kill Darby Allin? like I went, oh, like I was so shocked, and the fact that he just laid flat. I was like, Yoss is selling this, and oh man,
because it's that extreme kind of like almost like jackass, almost like he'll do his crazy stuff. The risk is you do look at it and compare it to someone like a Jeff Hardy, who you could argue did even less kind of gruesome looking things than Darby. And we look back at that and go, oh, that definitely played a part in some of your injuries and whatever else. And you're very lucky. Jeff hasn't had the worst career as far as injuries go. You know, he's been pretty lucky. So, but then you look at someone like Darby Allin doing similar stuff, and in some cases crazier stuff, like in body bags and stuff like that, where you can't protect your fall and doing this crazy. Like sometimes you can make, like again, case in point earlier, Rob Van Dam's spike DDT. Like it looks gruesome, but he's very safe, you know, but it can go wrong. Even when you're trying to make it look gruesome, you can accidentally make it actually gruesome. And a lot of Darby's stunts are like that. But I guess he's got, again, that kind of like jackass mentality where he'll just dive through something and whatever else. And again, Johnny Knoxville's doing it. So why would you not put Johnny Knoxville in the ring and make money out of it, you know? So, and that's what it kind of feels like for me. He's like that kind of jackass kind of, that might feel like a dated reference for our younger viewers. We grew up in the glory days of Jackass, Viva La Bam. But
CKY was great.
CKY, mate. Don't tell me about CKY. I was obsessed. Go on.
I was gonna say, what irritates me is just the Darby Allin like jackass stuff. Someone posted a picture online, and I can't look at Darby any other way. But basically, if Sting and Machine Gun Kelly had a child, it would be Darby.
Again, well, we should move into Sting, because I think the way they've paired them is really well as well. But quickly before I do move on from Jackass, I know the new one's coming out. It's a bit late for that, and it's meant to be the last one. But that would have been a great cameo. I think that would have been a great cameo for AEW. Like, it would have been really good to kind of mix that together. But anyway, moving into Sting. When Sting came out, I genuinely thought CM Punk's going to turn heel. Oh my goodness, it's happening quick. Oh my goodness, it's happening quick. And we'll get into a quick heel turn later on. But I was like, oh, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to hit Sting. He's going to hit Sting. And I was like, no, he's going to hit Darby. Oh, he's maneuvered this way. Look where the camera is. He's going to turn heel. And then it didn't happen. I was like, oh, okay.
So I thought the opposite.
You feel that way?
I thought the opposite, man.
Maybe,
yeah. Sting was going to do a Scorpion Death Drop on him.
Yeah.
I thought they were. I was like,
we really need that. That's what I weren't sure of Sting. I was more thinking it'd be Punk.
I don't know, because the way it was standing, Sting was kind of swaying more towards Punk, and I was like, especially when Punk kind of was starting to bend down to talk to Darby. I was like, is he gonna turn? And I'm thinking, don't turn Sting.
He's done it to Darby because Darby was literally waiting in front of him, getting up.
It was lifeless, yeah, man.
So like, there was a lot, yeah. But I like that. They probably know that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna stand a little bit over here, just to make you think. You know? So I like that.
I didn't like it, and I like the fact we had the handshake, which is always great to see. And then they got out, and I love this weird. It's this weird moment with Darby and Sting, where it's like a father and son, like it's kind of like the Ray and Dominic thing, you know. In WWE, we've got the father and son moments, and even though they're kind of like, I guess, brothers in paint, if you want to class them as that, kind of how they were with Sting and Vampiro, but it's like a new breed of a guy in paint, and I love the fact that Sting has been paired with Darby. I'm really enjoying it, and Sting and he didn't have this body language of like, no, you fouled. It was like, get up and try again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It was all done based on respect, wasn't it? It was like, yeah, when I come out, and the fact that what did he fist pump Punk, or he shook his hand, something. It was like, yeah, cool. Like exactly what I said I would do. I did, like you mentioned earlier, fist pump Darby, go to the back, come out and be like, yeah, you tried your hardest, and you did really well. Well done, both of you. I'm proud of both of you. Like it was a nice moment.
It's a beautiful moment.
Sometimes you just need that. Yeah.
Heartfelt, man. I nearly cried.
Oh, you whip. No joking. I was emotional. Okay, let's move on.
Tall Paul.
We got Tall Paul versus QT Marshall. Not a long match, and I'm glad it weren't. Nothing against the Big Show. I know people do like kind of jumping on him at times, but I do think he is a valuable proposition for AEW, and played it well. I think it was unfortunate timing to have his first match. I felt like maybe it would have gone longer if the show hadn't gone so long. Maybe he would have had a bigger impact if there weren't so many ex-WWE guys showing up in this past couple of weeks. So it felt a bit under the radar, kind of like how Christian has at times. But at the same time, it's just, they are solid hands. Like Mark Henry, they are like, you can pick their brains. There are so many benefits to have Big Show around. I did feel like it was a bit of a shame for him that maybe in another scenario, maybe if this was a month ago, Big Show might have had a bigger impact, pardon the pun. But yeah, and because of that, there was that risk of going, and especially here, 4 a.m. again, I tweeted about it being like, oh my goodness. And it weren't Big Show, it was just the fact that I was going, a 20-minute Big Show match, I don't want right now, so please, let's not do that. I keep saying Big Show, I should say Paul Wight, really. But yeah, Paul Wight. And again, he's not the problem. It's just like certain matches work well with him. There's a certain type of Paul Wight match that I really enjoy, and there's a certain type that I don't enjoy. Same could be said for Randy Orton, you know. So there are a lot. It's like, yes, them as this is what I want to see, not them as this. So, and depends who they're with. So I think this was well done. Almost too quick, but I weren't complaining at 4 a.m, 10 past 4 at this point, I think. But yeah, so again, not much to say about this match. I think it's more about the fact that they were wise not to do what they could have done with this match.
Yeah, I think it was just when I said that there weren't filler matches, I don't think if anything felt like a filler match, it was this one. And I think even though this was storyline driven, you know, it was very much.
That's why it felt unfortunate, because they did have a decent storyline around it.
It was Shivani, right?
Yeah, Shivani and his kid, like.
Yeah. So why wasn't Shivani? I just felt like Shivani could have been in Paul's corner.
Yeah, you know, it felt like it could have been bigger.
Yeah, it could have been a bigger show.
Yeah, but saying that, like a bigger show. Saying that, I see what you did. And obviously they had the Andrade Pac match moved as well because of apparent travel restrictions. And you think, wow, Like, I'm glad it went on this because the show was way too long anyway, right? Not way too long, but kind of too long. But then you just think, wow, they weren't on it. And then you look and you go, wait, Malachi Black, he wasn't on the show either, apart from the promo. So when he popped up, although again, I was like, mate, it's 4 a.m. I was also like, but this is a nice reminder of, look, we ain't just going to shove it all on there for the sake of it. And it ain't like he's like no part of me thought, oh, look, already he's not on one of their biggest shows. Like it just made me go, wow, I've got so much more to look forward to with AEW.
I really thought you were going to do an Owen Wilson then, to be honest. Wow. There's a throwback to the podcast.
It was, yeah.
Just for that reason. But yeah, no, you're right. The match done what it needed to do. The only thing that annoyed me was Paul won, and that was it. Shivani didn't come over to him. He didn't go over to Shivani. It was kind of...
It was missing that, you're right.
Yeah, it something just didn't hit right. But we got it. Basically, it was. Do you know what this match was? It was basically a classic, a highlight of Big Show. You know, he done the punch, he done the slaps, he done. Yeah, that's what you need. What more do you need from a guy? You know, there's that. You know, that's just had surgery. It was a fun day for him.
Yeah, for his part, performance-wise, it was what it needs to be. But I'm with you, storyline-wise, and maybe it is a time thing, but storyline-wise, I think they could have done a little bit more. Even like a 1 extra minute, like although I'm moaning about the time, another minute given to Shivani or something like that, because like you said, it was part of the storyline. That wouldn't have gone amiss for me. Okay, well, we're talking about time, and we are getting up there with time as well, so we best move on swiftly to the main event. We've got Kenny Omega. With Don Callis, of course, AEW World Championship on the line against Christian Cage, the Impact Champion. Now, obviously, rumors for the longest time this is going to be the Hangman Page thing, and this is the perfect example of it's a good job they stepped off of it, because no disrespect to Christian, but he filled a slot, in my opinion, because it was about bringing in Bryan Danielson, and obviously... Bonus, Adam Cole.
Baby.
Which, I'm sure we'll have plenty to say about. But firstly, on the match itself, I enjoyed it. I think these two worked well together. They worked well together on that Rampage debut as well. The V-trigger was sharp. The V-trigger that went on to Gallows as well was very well executed. Again, we're talking about RVD doing his spiked reactions. We had a nice spiked kill switch. From Omega to Christian Cage here as well, and capping it off with a one-winged angel from the top rope. Very well executed. Again, Christian, we can take, it's like with Edge's return as well, we can take a lot of this for granted, and then you stop and you go, hold on a minute. Not only is Christian back, but he's pulling off matches like this. It's like that, 2009 when he had that feud with Randy Orton that everybody loved? It's like, he can still do that, you know? So, man, I really enjoyed this match. For me, I think we all know it weren't about the match. It was about what's coming after the match. But that doesn't mean they had to have a crappy match. They had to have a main event level match that maybe would kind of usually go on a B pay-per-view. But a solid one. But not too much. Don't overdo it because we're going somewhere else after it. And I think they execute that very, very well. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't feel sorry for these guys because I think the way I'm looking at it is Rampage, they had their match. That's when they had their match. This was, as you said, this was a main event, but the only reason that I'm annoyed is because I remember more of what happened after the match than I do in this match. But that's no disrespect to the guys, because like I said, they had their match at Rampage. But this was just two guys in a title match. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how it felt.
Shuffle, even. Let's be honest. Like, with everything that went on, weirdly enough, you needed the main event to take a step back. I mean, I'm not saying it was a bad match or a poor match. It was still a very good match, but it was like a B kind of main event, wasn't it? You know, like, because there was a lot of like, well, if Punk ain't closing it, something's happening, and obviously it did. But I'm with you, like. It wasn't the most standout match. The other one probably did that more, but you're right. They had that, and we had another story to tell here, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same, and I don't want to be controversial, and I don't like doing a comparison of one company to another, right? I mean, I try not to. I don't like comparing wrestlers either, because everyone's got something new to bring to the table, right? Yeah. However, Edge's return and Christian's return, Edge had a big wow factor in front of the fans.
Yeah.
But solo work since they've returned, Christian is far better. And I'm a fan of Edge, and we've said this on other podcasts within the WWE stuff with Lucas and Dan as well. But man, that WWE lost something when they lost Christian. I mean, firstly, because the match at Rampage, this one, taking a one-winged angle from the top. Bearing in mind, the guy had concussion problems.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he just reminds you of Christian Cage from Impact. Like, it was like he left.
He just jumped back into that, 2007, 2008, whatever it was.
Oh,
I mean, you're right.
Man.
I think with Edge, it's hard. You don't want to, especially them two, because they've always been compared. But hey, we love that match against Seth Rollins. But it goes back to that point of there is an Edge match I want to see, and there is an Edge match I do not want to see. And most of that was the Randy Orton stuff. Even though I was really bought into that feud, and it kind of unfortunate timing with a lot of it injuries and the kind of weird kind of WrestleMania they had to do and stuff like that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think everything Christian has done has been solid, and it's because it's been protected. He's had the right kind of match for who he is.
I just find it mind-boggling how I want to see one more match between Christian Cage and Kenny Omega. Like, something doesn't sit right with Kenny going against someone like, and that's no disrespect to Christian, but he kind of had his moment. This is now like Kenny's time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that they had a fantastic match at Rampage, I still put on a solid match at All Out. You know, the only downside of the match at All Out is the stuff that happened after. But I don't think that overshadows their match. The match was great. You know, it just didn't need to be incredible because there was a bigger finish coming.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that exactly. And I think purely for the fact that they knew, Adam Cole comes out, and they had this moment that I don't think they were discouraged by that because the match was still good. You know, I mean, even Christian trying to go for a quick kill switch at the beginning was like, I just want this match done. You know,
it didn't feel like Christian was doing a performance of someone that was like, well, I know I'm just kind of plugging a hole here until you get something later. I know something else is happening. Like sometimes you feel that with certain wrestlers. You think in certain performances, they know what this is and they're stepping back. I don't feel like Christian did. I feel like, you know, although we say they did kind of tone it down a little bit, I don't think him as a performer, he, you know, ended up being. It wasn't evident that he was like, oh God, I'm just filling the gap. Like it seemed like he was just trying to give off. Like, and a lot of that probably comes from wisdom and age and the fact that this is his second shot. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to it. So many layers. But speaking of layers, how many things happened after it? Okay, so now, first of all, the way I tweeted last night again. I can't believe they did it, both of them in the same segment, let alone the same show. Like, wow, like, because it's just not done. Like, if I'm telling AEW how to do it, I would tell them not to do this. But that's because it's never been done before. And yes, there is a risk, and I think the biggest risk is that Adam Cole kind of gets lost in the shuffle here. But let's face facts. They stumbled onto a lot of, like, there's rumors of obviously Bray Wyatt. They could bring Braun Strowman in. There are so many ex-WWE guys they could bring in that. They have stumbled into, oh my goodness, Punk worked out at the same time as Bryan Danielson. Oh my goodness. And so is Adam Cole. Oh, and so is Ruby Soho. What do we do? You know what I mean? I understand. And it's only just brought in Big Show and Christian, you know? So it's tough on that front. So, but at the same time, if we're talking moment, I don't know where we're going with all this, but if we're talking moment, the way they did it was so good because I've been thinking, look, it's Daniel Bryan or Adam Cole. I was leaning more into it's Daniel Bryan, right? So when Adam Cole came out, again, as I mentioned earlier, graphic came up, boom, you knew who it was, same color kind of code and style that you'd see from Undisputed Era. So you knew who it was, similar kind of song. It suited him better than his solo song did in NXT already, I feel, which again went on that kind of, let's do a similar song to Undisputed Era. But this one was, they captured it more so. Be interesting to find out who's actually done this song. But anyway, so they bring him out. I completely forgot about the history with the Elite, even though in the build-up, I thought, I wonder if he'll come back as a heel and join with the Elite. Even though all the jokes and references that have been made to him dying on being the Elite, right? And even when Omega said they're either not here or they're dead, I just thought, oh, he means like San Martino and stuff. Like he doesn't. That's what I thought. But when I watched it back, I was like, mate, what he said was perfect. Anyway, so it comes out. light goes out. He comes in as a baby face, and then obviously quickly turns heel, which I do like because you need him to come in as, oh my goodness, he's here. But again, I was so caught up in the moment that even someone that knew there was massive potential and most likely he was going to align with him, even I lost my mind so much that I forgot that and was like, what? He's turned heel. And then like watching the Bucks kiss him and like, oh man, it was so good. It was so good. And then sorry, I'm rambling here, man. I'll get all my words out and I'm going to jump over to you. But like, yeah, then obviously to then be like, oh, it's over then. And then they start beating on all the good guys. And it's like, oh, it can't be over. It can't be over. And again, another thing they've done music-wise, they could do, thankfully, like you can with Ric Flair. It's just a regular song that isn't owned by WWE, so like it's recognizable straight away. Rumors obviously could have had the final countdown, which I think a lot of people would have recognized as well from his indie days. But I think what they did was good. I'm not sure about the remix yet.
Love it.
We'll see where that goes. I don't know if I do. I think I do, but I think I don't. I'm not sure. I think it depends on how his entrance works with it. He didn't do many yeses. He did that. He didn't really do the yeses, did he? So, but you know, there was enough people doing it. But yeah, to then be like, we brought back a heel and now we're brought in a baby face, like, oh man, to see him like, it's just a breath of fresh air. And I know these are the same guys, you could argue, but it brings new life to so much, to AEW and to both of their careers. Again, my biggest fear is that it's a bad time for Adam Cole to come in. But realistically, is he going to sit at home for 6 months? You know, so I mean, you've just got to pull the trigger. If you're given the opportunity, sometimes you just got to go with it.
Yeah, do you know what? I think this is perfect timing. And again, as you said, it's never been done before. One person debuts, then bang, instantly someone else debuts. It's not a done thing.
The closest one, I think, is when you had Undertaker and Triple H return at the same time, and I think they challenged each other, which was like, whoa, that's the most similar thing I can think of. But yeah, a debut is different anyway. Yeah,
but the fact that the promo that Kenny Omega done, and then he got cut off, and I was thinking, Adam Cole's like, when he came out, I was like, no, Adam Cole's going to be the person to like dethrone Kenny. And then he turned heel, in an instant heel turn, and then he done the kiss, and I love what Adam Cole done, because he pointed to his cheeks. He got kissed by the Bucks, and then if you watch the camera, Kenny kisses the back of his head.
Oh, okay.
So he got a kiss from all three of them. I was thinking, do you know what? Great. What a moment.
And he already got in his like, I'm coming here to be the savior. I'm coming here to stop you. And he got in the Adam Cole baby, which, don't get me wrong, he's been a heel for pretty much all of his run in NXT, and he's got all that over still. But I think it needed that babyface pop. And then the quick turn, because people are still going to Adam Cole baby up now, aren't they? So,
exactly.
There's the go though. Like, are we going to go? Surely we're going to go into what they did with the Bullet Club eventually, which is like a power struggle for who's the, you know, and again, like the Nation with Farouk, you know, like these things have been done before. But because eventually it's got a split and whatever else. Hangman Page, we've still got that to tie up. So I'm a bit worried that there's too much going on at once. But at the same time, judging by what they've done, I have faith in them. I think they've made some mistakes in the past, AEW, but at the moment, they're hitting a lot of home runs. Man, yeah. But I tell you what, I wish I had recorded my reaction when Bryan Danielson come out. Now, bearing in mind, in the UK, it was just like 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Yeah. I was already tired. My eyes were real heavy. I'm still getting over COVID, as you know. So like, I'm not feeling the best. And Bryan Danielson come out, and all of a sudden, like, I just got hit with this bolt of lightning. And I went, oh, like my eyes went so wide. I was like, no, like I just didn't expect it. I honestly thought, because they were rebranded NXT, Daniel Bryan was going to be a part of that, and he was going to kind of because I really thought like they want to rebrand NXT. They want to do this on Raw and SmackDown. I thought they were going to have Daniel kind of traveling between all three brands and just being that guy, you know, like he doesn't need to do anything. And then for him to come out, just, man, like, I was speechless. I was like, nah. And then they obviously we had the yes chance, and Daniel stood in it, like got in, they had their little battle, running knee. Yeah. And then just for them to hug it out and like just have Lucha, like,
dude.
And that's a great point. Again, we already mentioned them being on the opener before the show, and now they're in the biggest spot. So it's such a great image of like, yeah, these people on the pre-show, they matter. They matter so much. They're aligning with Bryan Danielson at the end of the show, you know. So, and there's so much to go on there. I think Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus are like a micro stunt. I think they're great anyway. It's such a great act, and like, I mean, what I got to say, man, like getting all cheesy with it now, but I just genuinely feel happy watching that show. There were so many things that just made me smile and made me jump. And like, for me, that's what wrestling's got to be. And again, there's always going to be comparisons, and there are people out there who have to pick a side, right? I mean, I'm just enjoying every side. I'm greedy, but yeah,
can I just say, like,
both sides. But I just had fun, and that's what wrestling's supposed to be.
Yeah, there's always going to be this thing. WWE versus AEW, right? I get it. Like, you're gonna have strong people for just WWE, strong for AEW. And look, I appreciate it. If you want to stick with your brand, stick with your brand. But do you know who's having the most fun? People like me and Scott, because we're
allowing ourselves to be entertained by both.
We're getting the best of both. If there was ever a time for people to go, "Oh, professional wrestling's awful," and you're gonna say, "No, it's not. Look at this."
Yeah,
dude, this is the prime time for everyone to be like, if you're not a professional wrestling fan, you're not cool, because look what's going on right now.
It's moving into that, man. That's exactly what they wanted to do, get that lapsed fan and stuff like that. And I think I loved the competition. Like, I stayed up late and watched when Impact went head to head with Raw that time, and they brought Bret Hart back. Just 'cause I wanted it to work. You know what I mean? When they brought in Hogan and the Outsiders and Jeff Hardy that time on TNA, you know, I want it to work. Like, it is so beneficial. AEW is so beneficial to WWE. Unless something tragically goes wrong, like it did for WCW and like it could have done for the WWF. But, you know, when you're in this kind of period, like, no one loses. Do you know what I mean? Like, they can both be lifted together and go mainstream. Like, it might never get to the point of Hogan, might never get to the point of Rock in Austin. But if there's any chance for it to become, like you say, cool again, like, now's the time.
It's now. It's now. The time is now.
That's people would jump in and like, oh man, it's exciting. We talked about this, I think, on the SummerSlam review, which you obviously didn't make it on for, but I think it was on there that I said, like, and it might have been on the build-up show, which, by the way, check out our build-up shows before pay-per-views. We don't usually cover AEW. We're going to start doing a lot more of it. We do every WWE one. We usually do like a live build-up show just before the show. It's a lot of fun, if I do say so myself. But on one of those, I basically said, this is WCW 95 for me. Like, we are starting to see something happen. And again, I know people don't want to have those comparisons, but look, you have to compare to something, right? And it's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing, you know. I think Hogan is their Punk almost. Do you know what I mean? So it's such an exciting time. And like you say, we win. I think fans that allow themselves, and there are things I don't like about AEW. There are things I don't like about WWE.
Yeah.
But I'm going to allow myself to enjoy the things I would like if the other company did it. That's the problem. I think when people watch AEW and they won't accept something that WWE would do, if WWE did it, they would love it. But because they've got their kind of preconceived notions about certain things, and look, it's vice versa. There are crazy AEW fans who hate WWE and act like Roman Reigns isn't doing the best work of his career when he is. And act like, again, Edge and Seth Rollins aren't tearing down the house when they are. Act like Dominic and Ray isn't intriguing when it is. Do you know what I mean? There are problems in WWE, but there are good things as well. The Usos doing the best work of their career as well. There are good things going on both sides. And I think it's so easy to look at them and go, the Usos? Do you know what I mean? Or go, Dominic and Ray, I mean, you're Ray, but like...
I know.
But, you know what I mean? Like, but you could do the same thing on the other side and go, it's all ex-WWE. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, the amount of ex-talent from elsewhere that are in WWE now, you can't pretend it's not. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
So that kind of ex-WWE thing always gets on my nerves.
What really... I don't know. What really made me... You know when you have that wholesome moment, right? And I don't know if a lot of other people see it, but it was just Daniel Bryan standing there with Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, obviously Christian was there. And I don't want to just say it because obviously everyone wants to say it, but Daniel Bryan just fit. Like, it was like, it was inevitable it was going to be there. You know, like,
once you see it, that's how, again, with Ruby
Soho,
like,
it's so mad. Like, you know, and it wasn't, obviously Punk, he's like the indie guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was always the ultimate indie guy, you know. but I mean, so was Daniel Bryan. But it was weird. Daniel Bryan had a different run in WWE to Punk. Yeah. But the fact that both of them are now in AEW and they both sit, but I don't know what it is. But Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson now, it just fit. I don't know why, but he was just standing. I was like, you know what?
So imagine if this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, and then Christian Cage. You know, we just think, what is going on? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, but what a moment! Like, what a perfect way to end a pay-per-view. And
yeah,
I want to be and do you know what? We've done a year's worth of podcasts over and predictions and stuff, right? Name me a better pay-per-view than this one now. Not just with WWE, but with what we've seen, right? Or even just in the last year. This pay-per-view has probably been one of the best ones I've seen in over a year.
Yeah, and the criticisms are small. I think they are like I said, the indie-rific super kick, should they really be bringing in everyone at the same time? But really, come on. When you look at a show, was that indie-rific super kick thing fun? Yes. And was it fun to see Adam Cole followed by Daniel Bryan? Yes. So we can't really complain. So even the negatives are hard. And it went a bit long. It didn't go that long though, and there were still matches that they could have squeezed on, and maybe in other shows and other people making decisions might have squeezed them on just for the sake of it. But yeah, I'm with you. It's got to be, and I don't want to, it's because I know certain WWE fans might look at this and just go, "Oh, big AEW guy now." But I'm just being honest. It was just because this show is one of the best of the past few years doesn't mean WWE isn't good. You know what I mean? So, and WWE haven't had amazing shows themselves. So, but we've got to be real. This is up there with, probably
100%.
I'd say, I don't know. I don't want to say.
I mean, I don't want to compare to do you know what? A lot of people were saying, if you had to put this alongside a WWE, a big WWE main event or pay-per-view, a lot of people were saying they would compare this to WrestleMania 17. Now, I'm not saying yes or no.
Okay, yeah.
But,
I get what you say. Yeah, for AEW, it's there.
For AEW, this is their biggest ever pay-per-view. And, mate, they hit a home run after home run on this.
Yeah. And that's I think that is one thing, and we can probably get into this another time, but that I think they struggle with, that I think TNA struggled with as well, is which one is it? Slammiversary or Bound for Glory? Which one's your Mania? Because you've got to have Mania. I know it sounds weird. They probably think, no, we ain't. You do. But
you need to have one.
Hard. How do you say this is our WrestleMania without being blatant this is our WrestleMania? I mean, WCW were lucky because they had Starrcade before Mania, but taking on from the NWA, but maybe they bring back Starrcade, who knows? But yeah, I think again, is Double or Nothing their thing, or is it All Out? It's kind of which one is it? It's got to be one of them two. So
I don't know.
It's hard.
I think, to be honest, Double or Nothing. I always look at Double or Nothing as more of a fun one, as All Out is more of this Showtime. This is your main one.
It comes off of All In and All Out. We're going all out. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you might be right. Again, we have to. Let's be honest. We have to compare it to WWE. But Double or Nothing is almost like their SummerSlam, then maybe, or their Rumble, and they only have 4 or 5 a year. So and then they have the special Dynamite. So, Matt. And anyway, we're just going into weird little tangents now. But hey, it's been good talking AEW with you, Rob. Hope you've enjoyed it. Anything else you want to say before we start wrapping up?
No, other than the fact that I now have to, obviously I've subscribed to Fight TV anyway to watch it, but I feel like now with everything going on, I need to know what happens next. So I have to watch more.
Yeah, that's a good sign, man, when you want to watch more. And I think the last time that really happened for me was the last Summer of Punk. So yeah, I mean, I've had some great times in between the Shield and stuff like that, but I'm excited to watch more now. And I'm excited the other side as well. Again, don't want to spend too much time talking about WWE, but they've got to retaliate, right? So I want to see what they do as well. So, yeah, Anyway, if you like this, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe. Please consider subscribing. Drop us a comment below. Let us know what you thought of the show and what you thought of this show as well. We'd really love to hear your feedback, and we really enjoy reading that. Again, we'll be doing more pay-per-view shows around pay-per-views coming up. We've got all the Extreme Rules stuff coming up soon with a preview and prediction show. The build-up show, as we said, is on the night. Basically, see that as a pre-show and your recap and review like we've done just here. And hopefully with the other two guys as well from the podcast crew, Lucas and Dan. Once again, Rob, thank you for coming on. Thank you everyone here for watching. Please subscribe to Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling. We've got a lot more on this channel, not just reviews and podcasts. We've got weird things like me trying on Seth Rollins suits, if you like that sort of thing as well. And we've got a lot more coming. Oh yeah, and interviews as well. We've interviewed a lot of wrestlers in the past few months. And check out our main Rebellious Noise channel if you want to see the archive for our wrestling content before we launch the main wrestling channel. With that being said, Rob, cool. We'll see you. We'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.